There's a train come. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All right, folks, welcome. It's the 4th of July, the big day. Let me get these numbers out of the way if you want to. And today would be a good day to get someone to listen in. So if you will, if you know somebody, there's still time, have them call the listen in line, 401-283-6754. And when they get there, press 1. Now, the other thing they can do is go to leadingedgeradio.com. leadingedgeradio.com. Now, if you want to call in, let's don't call in yet. Don't call in yet. I'll tell you when we can start taking calls. But if you want to call in the program, it's 501-499-6022. That's 501-499-6022. And then last, if you want to send a text, text me at 440-897-0611. 440-897-0611. I don't know how many of you are out there today. I'm sure a lot of families are together out celebrating. I would ask any of you that want to, you may, before the fireworks displays tonight, go on Larry Nichols Live YouTube and go back to the program. I think Alden has labeled it the 4th of July program, so you'll know. But you might want to just listen to it, please. Because today is the day when all soldiers, past, present, all of us are connected. And the 4th of July is significant. Do you know why? Do you really know why? Now, it's the Revolutionary War, but you see, the 4th of July is the day, it isn't the day we won our independence from Great Britain, England, the King. 4th of July, 1776 is not that. What was done the 4th of July, and that date is subject for debate. Is it the actual day? Was it where, it doesn't matter. We declare that to be the day today to honor it. But that was the day that we, as a nation, declared ourselves independent. That's right. That was the day. What's incredible to me about that day, now the war lasted for years. It was horrible. Some of it I'm going to talk to you about today. It was horrible. But it lasted for years. Today's date, the signing of the Declaration of Independence, that's what happened today. And every person that signed that document, every man that put their name on that document, basically made themselves criminals that day. And what you might not know is that was a heated debate in that day. There are a lot of loyalists. There were hate to tell you this, there were way more people against declaring our independence from England, the King, way more against breaking away than were for it. Isn't that something? And of course, if you knew then what we know today, then of course every one of them, everybody here would have probably signed it if you knew then what we know today, the outcome. But just think of the courage it took for those men to sign that document. They became a target that day. And another thing people don't realize, well, for the majority of the men that signed that instrument, well more than the majority, I mean, all of them except maybe 2 or 3, when they signed that piece of paper, which gave us our freedom today, when they signed it, they lost everything they had. Everything. As a matter of fact, one of them, can't remember his name right now, one of them even ordered, when the British were at his plantation, he ordered the Revolutionary Army of the Americans to fire on his plantation and destroy it. That takes a level of courage, a level of strength that I don't think many of us even understand today. It's hard for me to look out today and find people that would do what the founding fathers did in 1776, which is basically just gamble everything they have for our independence. I don't know. It's hard to find today. But they did it. They did it. And they entered into a struggle that cost us dearly back then. Lives, families, property. It was all gone. By the time the war ended, it was a mess. And the price, one would think, was so high that if I had or you had have signed that Declaration of Independence on July 1776, had we have done it, and then at the end of it, seeing what had, or during it, seeing what was going on, the carnage and the property and the loss of everything, you know what? Probably wouldn't have signed it. Man, might not have. Because you see, in that day, believe it or not, they didn't really think it was going to take 6 years or thereabouts, whatever, to finally win the war. And they had no idea of what the country would look like if they did win. And you see, that's why I get so frustrated at politicians. Politicians today walk around, they carry the Constitution, so they say, in their coat pocket or shirt pocket right above their heart. That's what they say. And then they stand up at the podium, wherever they're speaking or whoever they're talking to, and they call us a democracy. A democracy. We're not a democracy. We're not meant to be a democracy. If you want to learn the reality for us, if we give up and allow ourselves to be a democracy, you need to go to Alexander Tytler. Now, I'm not sure how you spell it, but go on the internet and look for the works of a man named Alexander Tytler. Tytler. Now, I'm going to spell it like it sounds, like tight, like your britches are too tight, Tightler. Now, that may not be the way it's spelled, so don't hold me for that. But in the mid-1700s, he had done an extensive study of democracies throughout history. And he found one thing that was common to all of them. One, he found that they all failed. But what is unique about what he found as it connects to you and me today is why they failed. Now remember, every democracy to date, when that man did his work, you got it? Okay, I was just informed it's Alexander Tyler, Tyler. I'm sorry, excuse me. Alexander Tyler, Tyler. Well, no, Tytler. I'm sorry, I can't get this straight yet. Tytler. So everybody get that straight. That's my fault. I'm not the best speller on earth, obviously. But what is important and significant today is not that all of them failed, because they all did. It's why they failed. Now, this is a lesson I want y'all to take notes on, because this is a lesson that all of us have got to learn. And we've got to be able to spread the word. You hear me? We got to be able to spread the word. The reason Alexander Tytler said that they all failed was because at some point, the majority, people are going to work to get a majority. And when enough people get there in this majority to win the election, they end up, it's their turn at the trough, as he says. As the animals of the day get up to the feeding trough, well, so too will those interested in a democracy. Eventually, people will build up enough people to get enough votes to be the majority. And all they got to be is the majority by 1%. And then they can use our laws to profit them. I'll give you an example. I think it was Mitt Romney in his campaign against Obama. He made this bloody mistake, they say. And he pointed out that like 51% of the people in this country, or at least I think he meant the ones that were going to be voting, 51% were getting something from the government. Something. Now, guys, when people are getting something from the government, it's hard to get them to give that up. You understand? It's hard to get them to give it up. So let's go back to the founding fathers. You see, they had to give it all up. They had to give it all up. The cast of characters in the Revolutionary War that we hold so high today, well, we used to hold so high today, and of course, I think we all still do. But our government today, our government presently, would love nothing better than to rewrite history and leave them out. But they were willing to form a government, and although they were the aristocrats of the day, most of them wealthy of the day, by the standards of the day, they could have very easily created and put in a democracy and fixed it that day to where it could help them. You got it? They could have used this whole thing to just do nothing but benefit them. But instead, they went with the document we know to be our Declaration of Independence. And the reason we, in case you've wondered, we've been called the Great Experiment for as long as I've been around. The Great Experiment. Well, the reason we're called the Great Experiment is because they created what's called and what we're supposed to be today, a representative form of government. Yep. Not a democracy. representative form of government. Nobody had ever done it before. A representative republic, I'm sorry. No one had ever done that before. No one knew if this new system would work. But that's the beauty of what they did on 1776, 4th of July. That day, if that's the exact date, on that day, they introduced to the world a document. It was our Declaration of Independence. They did not have that day, as I'm told. They didn't have the Constitution all worked out. But what's funny about the Constitution that all the politicians wear in their coat or shirt pocket over their heart, the Constitution, write this down. Write this down. The Constitution is a negative compact or contract, if you want to call it that, a negative compact. Wow. What is that? What on earth are you talking about there? Well, you got to remember, the founding fathers that created our country or gave us what we now have or should have, they didn't know what was right. They had no idea what was right, but they knew what was wrong because they had just lived through it. They were living under it. So you know what they did? They made our Constitution not to tell everybody and to order everybody as to what you can or cannot do and to push you around and facilitate themselves as the hierarchy to be the establishment and it all benefits them. They didn't do that. They created an instrument that stated with specificity, what the government can do and can't. Relative to us, they gave us certain inalienable rights. They put them in there. The things to us are put in there. We have a right to worship as we choose. We have a right to free speech. We have a right to own a firearm. Whatever kind of firearm you want, you have a right. And all of a sudden on the firearms, guess what? That right's being infringed on. And they're whacking away at it, whacking away. You know, this size clip's banned here, this weapon's banned there, and they just keep whacking away. And then we find ourselves guilty of the same things the states are. You and I, we find ourselves in the same place the states are. As I've told you, the key to saving our country is states' rights. And to get to your states' rights, you have to understand why we don't have states' rights. And the reason we don't have states' rights is because the states, over time, have exceeded their powers and given them to this one place on earth where the devil runs king. One place, to Washington, to the central government. They've exceeded, and we're letting them get by with taking our rights, number one, to own a firearm that we choose. Every time something happens, they blame it on the gun and our right to own one. You get it? They blame it on that. Well, if we take the guns up, if we take every law-abiding citizen and we put the series of hoops we've got to jump through to be able to legally own the firearm, the enemies, the bad guys, they get them. You know what? They don't care about the rules. They don't care about the rules anyway. So why on earth would you just go after the guns when you know Anybody in their right mind can see if you go after and you take all of our guns away from us, we, the law-abiding American citizen, take them all away. Go ahead. And then you know what will happen? The bad guys will rule. Why? Because they'll have guns. They're not going to turn theirs in. And they know it. They know it in Washington. They know it in Washington just like you and I. But if we let them, and see, this is where that incrementalism comes in. If we let them whittle away, one clip at a time, one type gun at a time, we are acceding to the government. And I'm telling you, from the world I live in, accession and submission aren't that far apart. They're just not. And at the same time they're whittling away at our guns, they're whittling away at our First Amendment right, free speech. They've already whittled away at our being free to choose the religion, worship as we choose, worship as we see fit. They've already taken that away. Look what they did. They didn't come out and put up a sign and say, okay, as of this day, you cannot worship as you choose. They didn't do that. You know what they did? They come around through the back door and create this 501c3 trick. So now our churches are out of the game. But how did they end up out of the game? Huh? You see, when the churches fell to agree into the 501c3, they committed an act of accession. Now, some churches, some pastors and ministers, they did fight it. And by the way, Alden told me I missed the first commercial, and bless his heart, he has sent 50 in. Alden, young man fighting desperately for his future. And by the way, you all need to thank Alden because he brings us this program. He and Leading Edge Radio, just so that you know, Leading Edge Radio gives us the time to meet like this. And then Alden records and produces the program and sends it to them. He does that for nothing, for free. Every day he does it. And then if that's not bad enough, look what he does. He turns and makes contributions. So he deserves a big thank you and credit. And as far as the commercial, if you want to help, I need you to do it today. And all you got to do is go to PayPal, and then you go to nicholslive@aol.com, nicholslive@aol.com. Or you can go to Larry Nichols, Conway, Arkansas on Facebook, and there's a button there that you can push. If you're not in PayPal, you can push it and use your debit card or credit card. You can also go to Larry Nichols Live on YouTube, and Alden has set up a link there to where you can get to the button. But I'm not going to beat you today over it. I got to have it. I'm about 500 short of where we've got to be. 500. But this day is not about me. This day is a tribute to the founding fathers that signed that Declaration of Independence that began the process that we are still in, and that was to set up a form of government never seen or applied anywhere else in the world of that day, that basically takes the little person, the big person, all persons that are here legally, and helps us supposedly run our country. But the system broke. The system broke down. Representative republic, representative. We're supposed to elect representatives that go to Washington and represent us. Today, that has become a career path. And pretty much from birth, a lot of people that have aspirations to be a politician, they start just virtually right out of birth, and they start playing the game and being a part of it and jumping through whatever hoops you have to jump to be able to get to grow as a politician. But the problem is, it's all about them. It's all about them. It's about their job, not ours. It's about their job, not our way of life. It's about their job. It's not about protecting us. It's their job. That's all they care about. And we have become so lazy that we have exceeded that power to them. Well, folks, we're going to take it back. We're going to take it back. I was reviewing in War College, and for the past couple of days, I've been thinking back on those days and the things that I read. And I think you can get to them through the Library of Congress. I think you can. I don't know if anybody can, but we could through the military. You could get and actually see hold in your hands the handwritten notes from the commanders to the commanders in the field about the troop movements, about the conditions, letters back to Washington from his leaders in the field. And if you sat down and read those guys, I'm telling you, if you could go back and think about those days and get in their mind. Remember, we've got 2020 vision of those days. They didn't. But if we could go back in some time machine and look, you wonder if you were there. You got to wonder, have you made a mistake? There's no way you could win. None. None. But they did. They did. There was no way with the number of people that were actually in support of breaking away from the king versus all the other people that were for staying. There's no way they could have won. No way. Fortunately for us here today, the king from England, Cornwallis's general, and all of his other generals, guess what? They didn't believe it either because they could see. They could see that we had no military to match off to theirs. We didn't. They could see that they were choking down our warriors to where they couldn't have food, clothing, ammunition. They could see that. So a lot of times people tell me, or I see on TV, people saying, well, the British were arrogant. Well, they were arrogant because they could add and subtract. Sometimes we think because they didn't have computers, they're not as smart as we are. Hey, let me tell you, they were smarter. But they sure could add and subtract. And they were there. They were on the ground. They knew how to cut off supplies to our soldiers. They knew. And they did. And they did. But there was one letter, I remember. To some ways, I remember it like it was yesterday because I've been there myself. Later, of course, but I had been there. Hold on. Thank you, Susan. Susan sent 25. Thank you, Alden. Thank you, Susan. And by the way, Windows, I don't know their name, but they come in under Windows since 75, right before the program. So thank you. We're getting there, folks. We're getting there. But this letter from an American soldier in the Revolutionary War, he actually wrote it to George Washington, General Washington. He had just been informed that I think I may be lying about this. He may not have had 8, but it seemed like he had 8 children. May have been 7. It was a bunch. He had a passel of kids. He got a letter from Washington and said one of his sons had died. And when he requested to go bury his son, his field commander, I do not remember his name, granted him furlough to go bury his son. This soldier wrote to George Washington and he said, "Would you bury my son for me? Because I can't go." And he made a list in that letter of why he could not go. And that list has stuck with me throughout the years. His unit had no ammunition. Holly sent a thing saying Happy Independence Day. Thank you, Holly. And I guess you can go to her Facebook. She's on Facebook. Holly Dutton, Dutton. I'd like for you to go and see the things she put up. It's neat. But anyway, this soldier put out this letter, asked George Washington to bury his son for him. He didn't mean for Washington to go actually bury him. He facilitated help to his wife and the other children. But he listed in the letter what his unit's needs were. I don't remember the names, so I'll just put names in there just so that it flows better. He said, one of the reasons I cannot leave is because my brother, William, I don't remember his name, my brother's deathly ill. He had dysentery, and he didn't know how much longer his brother would stay alive. But he had to stay. He said that Tom, whoever Tom was hungry, and last night Tom took the shoe off of, in that day when somebody was killed, they often took their clothing and put it in a pile so that anybody needs shoes, they could go to the pile from all the dead people and pick out a pair of shoes or boots. We said Tom had gone to the pile and got a pair of shoes. He said, when I asked Tom why he got a pair of shoes, were his shoes so bad, he said, no, I'm going to cook them and eat them. The soldier thought he was crazy. He did. He said, you're crazy. But that time he took those shoes and he burned them. And the reason he burnt and cooked those shoes, he told Washington, was because they had, and it was in the dead of the winter. It was the worst winter any of them remember. And they had no clothing. And he mentioned like 5 or 6 troopers that had gone 3 days in the snow and ice barefooted because they had no shoes. He talked about himself and he said he hated to bring it up, but he sure was cold. He sure was cold. And that they had killed a bunch of horses, cows, and when they killed them, they kept the furs and the skin, and that's all they had to make clothing out of. Okay, Alden said my mic. Yeah, let me come right back, folks. My mic's cutting in and out. We'll be right back. What do I need to do?
Oh, I wish I was
in the land of cotton. Old times there are not forgotten. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland, Dixieland, where I was born. Oh, early on a frosty morning. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. Hush. All right, let's go. All right, we're back, folks. Sorry about that. Legal difficulty. My mic was cutting in and out. Sorry about the interruption. It's on Soldier's letter. He was cold. They had no clothes. He went on to say that they were putting gravel into their guns, their rifles, because they had no lead, they had no shot. And they were terrifically low on gunpowder. And every night, his commander would send out 4 or 5 teams or patrols for the simple purpose of going around and trying to catch British soldiers and take their powder. And they were using half charges of the powder because they didn't have enough to put a full charge in their weapon. And then he talked about he had just come through his first hand-to-hand combat. Now, he had been in many a skirmish, apparently. But right before doing this letter, they ended up in a hand-to-hand battle. Hand-to-hand means knives, hands, rocks. You're just that close. You're just fighting a man. And he said he had beat down one of the enemy soldiers, had him beat down. The man held his hands up and begged for his life. And the soldier said that they didn't have any place to keep a prisoner, and he knew it. But he had the man's life literally in his hands, in his hands. Now, folks, I've been there. It's a horrible place to be, but he was there. And he said the man kept begging for his life. And he said he spoke better English than I did. He spoke, I could hear you, I could understand his words. He wasn't some distant shadow or silhouette that I was shooting. I mean, I had his hands in my throat and I had my bayonet ready to lunge into his throat. But the man begged, cried, told him all about his family, and he listened and he listened. And he let him up. Let him up. Then he made the man sit down. The British soldier made him sit down, and he did. And they talked. And, you know, he talked about, I was talking to the enemy. He was just a regular guy, just like, and that's my words, just a regular guy like him. He was just talking. And the man was oh so grateful that he had spared his life. He was so grateful. And of course, the soldier said, but the problem I got is what I'm going to do with you. And he said, well, I will leave if you will let me. And in that day, they had a prisoner exchange program to where if they captured a British soldier, then they would exchange for an American soldier that the Brits had. Or they would take them out of action, which meant you turn over all these prisoners and we'll send them back to England. And they swore they wouldn't fight anymore. So when the soldier talked to his commander was quite put out that he had not killed him. But the commander talked to him and found that he was of no value. He was no high-ranking person. And one man, what difference could it make? The soldier said, what are we going to do? The commander said, well, we'll just let him go. So he picked the man up, brushed him off. The man was gracious and thankful, said okay. He proceeded to walk away. The next morning, in his letter, he told the next morning, that night, two of his best friends and one other person had been killed. His brother who had dysentery. An enemy soldier had broken in to the camp somehow, didn't know how, and had stabbed his brother right in the throat. He said it was really odd that he was stabbed right where he was fixing to stab that British soldier. Stuck it right in his throat. And the two medical guys that were helping his brother, he killed them and they weren't even armed. Then he found out the man that had done that prior to leaving was that British soldier that he had let go. And the reason this soldier could not go home to bury his son was because he knew then, he knew that if we capitulate or surrender at any time in any way, they'll lie. They're not going to send them back to England and honor their pledge to not fight anymore. Anything the enemy said, this soldier told George Washington would be a lie. And he warned George Washington, don't do as I did. Don't believe the enemy. Don't. And the letter concluded. Washington sent back a letter to that soldier. Unfortunately, by the time the soldier's letter got to him, so it was said, the soldier had been killed. But in Washington's letter, he said, one of the biggest mistakes made by Christians is to believe in another Christian and never turn your back, never give in to the enemy because you cannot trust him. Now, that event that happened to that American soldier happened to me one occasion. And throughout all the battles and wars we've had throughout our time as a nation, many a time the Good Samaritan American or Americans have granted kindness to the enemy. Not in every, but in far too many occasions when that happened, it only turned out that the enemy had lied and came back and exacted penalty back on us. The reason I tell you that story today is because we have got to realize who the enemy is. And we've got to listen to that soldier. We've got to listen to him. Whatever the enemy says is a lie. It's a lie. They're not trying to protect us. They're not trying to honor up to anything they say. It's a lie. And I ask every one of you to believe, for I am not the enemy, but I ask you to believe that we have an enemy. And that enemy is us. It's our federal government. The federal government is as much an enemy as is ISIS. You say, well, no, that can't be so. Larry, God, you're crazy. You can't say that. ISIS cuts heads off. Our enemy, our government, cuts up babies in and out of the womb. Our government takes jobs from people and makes them live in poverty. Our enemy takes essentials away from us, like freedom. You got to know that. Yeah, I'm going to let, at this moment, I'm going to let Alden come on and do a short commercial right quick, and then we'll come back. And folks, I've got a little bit more to tell you, so Alden kind of brisk through it if you don't mind.
Hey
Here's Alden.
everybody, today's a very special day to us all, but I know it means even more to Larry. I wanted to give him an extra day of rest and enjoy the holiday off, but he wouldn't allow it. He didn't want to be anywhere else but here today. Well, it would mean a lot to me, and I'm sure many others, if we could get him the amount he needs today. Unfortunately, I'm coming in the last 15 minutes, and I wanted to have the amount by the last 10 minutes. So I'm not sure that's possible, but if you're able to help, please donate. There's multiple ways that you can help. Um, you can send money by PayPal to family and friends, not a purchase, to Nichols Live at AOL.com. Another way you can do it is go to Larry Nichols Live Broadcast Facebook page. There's going to be a Learn More button on the top. Click that, and that will take you to the yellow Donate button. And that is where you can use a credit card or bank account if you don't have a PayPal account. And you can also find that link if you go to Larry Nichols Conway, Arkansas Facebook. They'll have another link to that yellow Donate button. And then the last way you can do it is a money order or check or whatever way, sending it through the mail. And his address is 58 Kensington Drive, Conway, Arkansas 72034. And again, it's 58 Kensington Drive, Conway, Arkansas 72034.
All right, Alden. Thank you, buddy. Thanks so much. Thank you for what you do. I mean it, Alden. Thank you. Now, folks, I'm telling you the story about the enemy and what the enemy does. Right now, we have an enemy on our shores, in our country. It's called ISIS. It's not really called ISIS. It's called Islam. Fundamental Islam. That's right. Now, we saw the two attacks last week. One in Istanbul and the other wherever it was. I've been away from it where I couldn't see it all. But think about it. So who did it? Fundamentalist Islamics. But our government refuses. In Istanbul, when they took the hostages and killed the people, ISIS immediately took credit for that. And our government put out a statement saying that they had no linkage, confirmation of linkage to ISIS. I mean, I don't know what to do. Our government, Obama, our black Muslim lion creep for president, Obama, refuses to identify fundamental Islam as an enemy of this country. And consequently, they're free to roam. They're free to do what they want to do. That's the enemy. Fundamental Islamist radicals. That's the enemy. And until the day someone can produce to you a Quran, an actual Quran, the Quran that is used by all Muslims in the Middle East and elsewhere, until one of them can produce a Quran where it talks about granting mercy, where it disavows killing like they come on and say it does. Until someone can hand you that Quran, don't you believe it? Don't you believe it one bit? No, the enemy. Our government does not. I think it knows it, but there's something up. I cannot say what. But you and I, we are that soldier. We're that soldier in the Revolutionary War. Hold on. Something said here from Greg at Leading Edge. My sincere apologies for being late getting to the numbers out today. Our internet was hit by lightning about 1 a.m. this morning, and it totally destroyed the internet connection. Fortunately, the network doesn't run from this location. Good. So he's letting us know. Thank you, Greg. Each one of us are that soldier in that Revolutionary War. And what that soldier did is he made a personal sacrifice of himself, even above that of bearing his son. And he warned the general what not to do. I say the same to you. Today, if we don't win this war, if we don't win it, everything we've known is gone. And everything they're telling us out of Washington, D.C., they are indeed the enemy of freedom, liberty. They are. And everything they tell you is a lie. Sometimes it's easy to see, sometimes it's not so easy. But whatever comes out of Washington, D.C. is a lie in some form or fashion. The race we've got coming with Donald Trump is really weird because it's not us, it's not me, and it's not you. I'm not running for anything. You're not running for anything. Donald Trump's the one that's running. Still to this day, he has not got the nomination. And I do not believe in any way the RNC, if they can, and I do not know how, but they're going to try. They're going to try to stop him from winning. You know, it's okay if he or anybody else loses the election because they got beat. That's just the way it runs in a representative republic form of government. If, he loses. But what we cannot stand for is to allow them to steal it. Because when they steal it from him, you do understand they're stealing it from us. We can't allow that. So I want you all this day, the reason I wanted to come on, and I sure didn't need to, but I owe it to all the soldiers I've served with that are coming out tonight when that big crescendo hits in that fireworks show. And when at the end, all of the bombs go bursting at one time and the sky fills up with all these wonderful colors, red, white, green, blue. Remember, that soldier that sent that letter to George Washington, he's up there coming down, looking at us. George Washington, he's up there. And I would imagine he's dressed up in his garb, and he's coming out tonight to look down at us. And when you look at them, remember, this is the one day of the year that they come out, and we pay honor to them for what they've done for us. I find myself at the fireworks display at the end. I find myself wondering which one of those sparkles are the friends I had that left and didn't come home, yet I did. I wonder how many of them are looking down at me and asking me, are you doing enough? You know, in the Bible, as with the Declaration of Independence signing, the main cast of characters in the Bible, their end didn't come out so good. They didn't come out real good in worldly accord. But because of their faith, because of their commitment, they get to sit in the presence of Jesus Christ, our Lord. So as those soldiers up there start preparing for tonight, I just had to come. I just did. I just want you to remember tonight when those fireworks start going off, hold hands with someone with you and start singing the Star Spangled Banner. Except when you sing it tonight, think about it. Think about those words like in that program last week. Think about the words are saying to you. Think about what that song is remembering. Because it's remembering that day, that battle. Now, it wasn't the Revolutionary War. It was the War of 1812. But that was the day our country was born. That was the day our country was set free. That was the day that we made it clear. England can get mad. ISIS can get mad. Islam can get mad. Hitler can get mad. All of our enemies can get mad. But they can't stop us. So, you and I have a job to do this year. When you sing that song, when you see that fireworks display, remember, we have a job this year. We have a battle we have to fight this year. And we have to know who the enemy is. And it's Washington and everything about Washington, D.C. And as far as Donald Trump's concerned, we've got a battle. We've got to try to make him get to be the nominee, which we will start doing very soon. But we got to make him be the nominee. Is he the perfect man? I know. I do not say he is. I do not know. But I know this. With what they've done to stop him and block him, I know they don't like him. And if they don't like him, and if they're willing to go to the extremes they have to try to stop him, then that tells me that he's not one of them. And we at least get to use the word might. He might be a good president. He might live up to our expectations. He might do the things he has promised. But anybody else, what they say is just a lie, and there is no might to it. So today, join with me. Please join with me today. Join up, join the army. Be a part. Be a part of the battle for this nation, please. And don't exceed your freedom of speech. Do not exceed it. Don't give it up of your own free will. Don't do it. Speak out. Say what you believe. Tell your neighbors, your friends, the people around the water cooler. Tell them the reality of where we are today. Either we stop it today or our country is gone forever. Now this week I'm going to dedicate to giving y'all things this week around the water cooler to your friends, etc. I'm going to give you every day a point that you can use. But remember, when you talk to them, just give them one thing. Don't give it to them all, because then their eyes will roll back in their head and you'll lose them. So with that, folks, I've got 30 seconds left, so today's program's done. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry I wasn't feeling well enough to do a whiz-bang job on today's program, as special as it is. But at least I was here. And you were as well. See you tomorrow, good Lord willing.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I've heard of, one in a lullaby.